Folkwin could only watch from afar as the woman he loved married his brother. He knew deep down that this wedding was just a charade, but they were now legally husband and wife. On one side is a joyful wedding scene, and on the other side is Folkwin drowning his sorrows in alcohol. The wedding scene was lively, but Folkwin didn't feel happy as he watched everyone cheering. Folkwin drank a lot and gradually became intoxicated. At that moment, a group of Roman soldiers escorting slaves passed by and asked Folkwin what he was doing alone in the wilderness so late at night. Folkwin did not answer and instead attacked them directly. Excessive alcohol slowed down Folkwin's movements. His fists failed to hit the enemy. Instead, he was beaten to the point of spitting blood and collapsing to the ground. The Roman soldiers tore off Folkwin's wolf-tooth pendant and threw it to the ground. Arminius also loved Tusnelda, but he knew that Tusnelda always had Folkwin in her heart. Tusnelda herself is aware of this, but it is difficult to force matters of the heart. After the wedding, the two prepared to go to the Roman camp because Varus wanted to meet Tusnelda. Just as they were about to leave, Tario brought bad news. They had found Folkwin's wolf-tooth pendant. The three hurried to the scene and found a body in the fire pit, burned beyond recognition and unidentifiable. Everyone could only accept the reality of Folkwin's death, compose themselves, and continue to face Varus. Folkwin had not died. When he woke up again, he found himself locked in a cage. The previous night, while drunk and fighting with the Roman soldiers, a slave had tried to escape in the chaos and was killed by the Roman soldiers. Thus, Folkwin took the place of that slave. When he woke up, it happened to be the time when Arminius and his wife arrived at the Roman military camp. He wanted to call out to his companion, but was afraid of attracting too much attention, and as a result, he missed the opportunity to recognize him. Varus had secured knighthood for Arminius, and at the moment he received the sword, Tusnelda felt Arminius's uncontrollable joy. Varus gave his first order to have the sons of the chiefs of the various tribes brought before him, and he wanted to use the chiefs' children to hold the chiefs in check. Arminius agreed. Tusnelda did not understand. If Arminius truly wanted to unite all the tribes, he should not be taking their children. Arminius asked her to trust him, saying he already had a plan. Previously, when Arminius proposed uniting the tribes, one chief was the first to object. This time, when they came to capture his son, he drew his sword to attack Arminius, but this was futile. He could only watch as his son was taken away. As Tusnelda left, she told the chief to convene a tribal meeting on the night of the full moon. The chiefs, whose sons had been captured, looked at Arminius with hatred, calling him a traitor. Arminius repeated that they had no other way. Without unity, they would only be at the mercy of others. Danger was imminent, yet everyone was still arguing over petty interests. Arminius did not hand over the chief's children to Varus because he did not want the children to suffer the same fate as him, being brainwashed in Rome and then returning to serve the Romans. The children returned to their fathers, and this action united the Germanic people, but it was still far from enough. The Roman legions numbered over 15,000, and Arminius already had a plan to defeat so many enemies. The three legions would return to Vitellius after the summer campaign, and that would be the opportunity. Some raised doubts, believing that even with all the tribes united, they could not defeat 3 Roman legions. As a former Roman commander, Arminius knew the weaknesses of the Roman legions, and blind overconfidence was one of them. He said that since he understood the Roman legions' way of life, they would know how to defeat them. Although the chiefs outwardly supported Arminius, in reality, they truly supported Tusnelda. Tusnelda would lead the tribes into battle. Arminius would return to the Roman camp and persuade Varus to lead the Roman legions into the forest. If the plan failed, Arminius would be crucified. Under these circumstances, Tusnelda was moved, and they became a true couple. Folkwin wanted to pass the message to others, but was discovered by Tusnelda's mother. She then told Segestes the message. Segestes, upon learning that Folkwin was not dead, decided to take revenge on Arminius. He talks about Arminius stealing his daughter and breaking the law, but in reality he has the chieftaincy on his mind. To him, national interests meant nothing. He planned to inform the Romans. Arminius shaved his beard and carefully recalled his goal: to lure the Roman legions into the Teutoburg forest. The roads in the Teutoburg forest were narrow, and the Roman legions could not form a square but had to march in a serpentine formation. Once the serpent's body was too long, even if the head was cut off, the rear troops would not notice, allowing them to be gradually eliminated. Arminius had not captured any of the chief's sons. Facing the tribune's questioning, he replied that the Marsian chief refused to hand over his son. This situation led to imitation by other tribes. so he proposed punishing the Marsan tribe on the way back to Vitellius to prevent the situation from escalating. Some officials questioned this, but Arminius, capitalizing on the confidence of the Romans, rhetorically asked if the other side was afraid that 1,000 Marsan. The tribune did not speak, and Varus, placing his hands on both their shoulders, decided to follow Arminius's proposal to punish the Marsi people as a deterrent. When Arminius was getting rid of the Roman legions, Segestes came to inform on him. He told Varus that Arminius planned to betray him. Varus turned to Arminius, who did not speak in the face of Segestes' accusations. Segestes pointed out that the head hanging outside was not Phocwen's. The real Phocwen had been enslaved and was being held in the Roman camp. Arminius was surprised, but he didn't show it. He then said that he would lead 15,000 Roman soldiers into the encirclement and destroy them with 500 barbarians. This was the plan of a Roman knight. Every word Arminius said was true, including replacing Phocwen with other people's heads. And then he asked Varus, what else could the truth be? Varus laughed heartily. He did not believe Arminius would betray him and instead locked up Segestes.
If you don't believe me, then put a smoke.
Arminius saw Phocwen in the slave prison and told him that on the way back to Vitellius, they would launch a general attack, and Phocwen would be able to escape then. The Roman legions advanced like a steel torrent towards Vitellius, a massive army the barbarians had never seen before. They marched in perfect formation, fully armed, striking fear into the hearts of all who saw them. The Roman legions maintained their tight formation and marched steadily. After entering the Teutoburg forest, the large square formation turned into small groups of 3. Moving deeper into the forest, Arminius was ordered to lead the Germanic auxiliaries at the front. Before setting off, Varus expressed his trust in him. Upon entering the dark and dense Teutoburg forest, Arminius could not help but vomit, whether from nervousness or the reaction to his lies, or perhaps both. But the plan had begun, and there was no turning back. Arminius drew the sword of the imperial knight, his emotions turbulent for a long time. On the other hand, Chatan chief Hedigen retreated at the critical moment, which shook the already unstable tribal alliance. With manpower already insufficient, losing the support of the Chatan people made the other tribal chiefs hesitate to continue the fight. Only Tusnelda could stabilize the morale. At this time, she was very angry because Arminius was risking his life to lead the Roman legion into the forest. She said that this land was where their gods lived and everyone should not doubt themselves. As she spoke, Tusnelda drew the bone dagger from her waist and recounted the story of Woden, the father of the gods, who sacrificed one eye for wisdom. Then, in front of the chiefs, she sacrificed one of her own eyes. Inspired, the chiefs struck their weapons against their shields and chests, roaring with the determination to fight. On the narrow road, the Roman soldiers marched in double file. The forest was filled with thick smoke, and many eyes watched them from the shadows, waiting for the Romans to fall into the trap.
Forests and swamps.
One by one, towering trees were felled, dividing the narrow road into segments. The Roman captain ordered a halt and prepared for battle. The barbarians had camouflage painted on their faces, blending with the trees. Tusnelda raised her spear, and a volley of spears and arrows flew towards the Romans, instantly taking down a portion of the enemy. After the ranged attack, Tusnelda let out a roar, and the Germanic people charged. The Germanic people fought with an advantage in the forest, using segmented tactics and outnumbering the enemy. They eliminated the Roman soldiers segment by segment, with men and women alike joining the battle, even using tactics like pouring oil and setting it on fire. Arminius was at the front of the formation, with Tario leading the Germanic auxiliaries in front of him and the Roman troops being attacked by barbarians behind him. The Roman captain seemed to sense something was amiss. Arminius removed his helmet, his face also painted with Germanic camouflage, and ordered the Germanic auxiliaries to attack the Romans. Hedigen, who had fled the battle, encountered Segestes, and their thoughts aligned. Segestes proposed that if the Romans were about to win, they would attack Arminius, allowing Hedigen to gain everything Arminius possessed. Hedigen was tempted. Varus was still advancing, but news came from the front that the main force had been defeated. The tribune said this was a carefully planned betrayal, but Varus still did not believe his son would betray him, insisting it must be the Marsan rebels and that Arminius must be in a fierce battle. With their flank exposed, Varus ordered a return to open ground. Arminius looked at Tusnelda, who was wearing an eye patch, and carefully removed it, feeling heartbroken. They embraced. And as Arminius was about to mention Folkwin, Tusnelda interrupted, saying she would avenge Folkwin. The war was not over. The second phase of the battle was about to begin. Varus returned to open ground, and the legions still had considerable forces. Tusnelda had already made preparations, and the Germanic tribes gathered at the edge of the forest, facing the Roman legions head-on. Some fought for the past, like Arminius, while others fought for the future. This was a direct confrontation between foster father and son. A Germanic man carrying a torch walked towards the Roman legion. Through the torch, and the oil in the pit was ignited, dividing the Roman formation into many small segments, turning the battlefield into several smaller battlefields. The Germanic tribes attacked from all directions, making up for their numerical disadvantage and preventing the Roman legions from fighting together. Arminius fought with the sword of the Imperial Knight for the freedom of the Germanic people. Folkwin also took the opportunity to strangle the person guarding him. One chief fought for his son, another for the gods. Arminius knew that for the Germanic people to win, they needed a clear strategy, while the Roman legions needed to maintain their order and disrupt the enemy's order to win. Varus looked at the roaring Arminius. Their eyes meeting, a chieftain was accidentally stabbed in the vitals by the enemy. He looked at his fallen tribesmen, realized that his blood and their blood would continue to nourish the land, and then died on the battlefield. At this point, Tusnelda is in danger when a Roman soldier sneaks up on her and knocks her to the ground. She killed the Roman soldier with her spear, but the continuous battle was taking a toll on her strength. Folkwin also joined the fight. Amidst the battle, Arminius turned and saw Tusnelda's brother Ansgar standing quietly in the chaos, gazing at the sky. Tusnelda also saw her brother in Folkwin and was momentarily stunned. The three formed a triangle, protecting Ansgar from harm. Arminius's face was slashed, but he continued to fight, killing his opponent with his own hands. Seeing Folkwin in danger, Arminius went to help, and his sword was knocked away. If they continued to fight like this, the outcome would be uncertain. The Germanic people hoped for the protection of the gods. Suddenly, a heavy rain began to fall, and Ansgar stretched out his hand as if waiting for the rain. The Romans' sturdy armor now became a burden, as the rain made the armor heavy and the ground muddy, making it difficult for them to stand, let alone fight properly. The Germanic people, unburdened by armor, fought fiercely, unleashing years of pent-up anger on the enemy. Varus, on horseback, watched as the Roman soldiers sank into the mud. Folkwin seized the eagle standard and raised it high, shouting. Varus dismounted, ordered his attendant to remove his armor, and granted the attendant freedom. Varus walked towards Arminius, picked up the fallen knight's sword from the ground, but did not engage in a fight to the death with Arminius. He faces Arminius and slowly kneels, holding the sword against himself. Varus had failed, his failure stemming from his trust in Arminius. He accepted the outcome of his defeat, and the sword pierced his body as if he were committing suicide to atone for his failure, kneeling before Arminius. Arminius, raised by this man, could not deny his feelings, but he did not regret what he had done, for the barbarians needed to control their own destiny. What was called barbarism was merely a different way of life and belief from that of Rome. The leaderless Roman legions were annihilated, and the Germanic people would establish their own country. Arminius, the knight raised by Rome, would become the king of the Germanic people, and Tusnelda would be his queen. The Battle of the Teutoburg Forest dealt a heavy blow to the Roman Empire. No wonder Augustus would cry out in anguish, "Varus, give me back my legions."